Do I think EVO's going to probably end up with more and more exhibitions as time goes on? Probably. You know, we'll probably get more of things like the Justin versus Betty exhibitions and stuff. But the main event is always still going to be the open bracket because that's the essence of our community, right? And, you know, a lot of popular sports, especially esports, because their goal is to make the money going the exhibitions route is better, right? Because people want to see their favorite players. And so there have been outside people who are very prominent in other esports who have suggested the FGC should go more towards exhibitions, keep the strongest players at the forefront, etc. But, you know, as our culture exists, we pride ourselves on the ability to have anybody be able to enter and win, and they all have the same chance. And you know, a lot of sports out there are like that. Obviously, with some sports like tennis, I know that if you're within a certain rank, you're automatically given a spot at Grand Slams or something like that, and there's a few extra play-in spots, so people who aren't the top players do have to work their way in there a little bit. But also keep in mind that tennis has an official ranking system, right? We don't have official ranking systems in our scene, and we can't. We just don't have that ability to, right? Like the tennis ranking systems are all designed on like, who did you beat and how much is this tournament worth and et cetera, et cetera. We don't have that ability because we don't have people play each other enough, right? You know, for example, like a player like Blas, before he actually made it to Capcom Cup and got second place, how do you know how good he is compared to everybody else? Sure, he's beating up everybody in his home country, but how do you know how he compares with everyone else? Because they don't cross over that much, right? And even if a Tokido traveled to Chile and played in a tournament, let's say he got first place, but, you know, Blas sent him to loser's bracket and et cetera, and you could be like, see, Blas to go. But again, tournaments are just tournaments, right? Like, Tokido maybe was jet lagged, or maybe he ate some bad food. Maybe even Blas ate some bad food that day, right? So a lot of times an actual ranking system is based off of constant results, is based off of consistency, right? That's what you're trying to reward a lot of the times, is consistency. And so, you know, a lot of actual sports are, you know, still designed in a way that they want to allow everyone to win. And so, you know, while I agree that the fighting game community definitely should have exhibitions, like the Red Bull stuff is awesome, right? Like I love the Red Bull stuff. The Red Bull Kumite stuff they do is amazing. And, you know, we could definitely have more of those kind of situations. But at the heart, the FGC, and especially the main FGC event of the year, aka EVO, has to be an open bracket because that is what we were born off of. That is how our scene was created, and that is part of our culture. As time goes on, people will fight against that. That will be challenged a lot, and I'm hoping enough people remain that, you know, and are in positions of power to be able to influence that decision to try to keep it that way. You know, obviously with EVO being acquired, well, I should say RTS being acquired by Qiddiya, there is concern for that. But even when you look at something like EWC, you still have to qualify for spots, but it kind of creates an exhibition. I remember when I traveled to Chile, they had a documentary on him about how hard it was for him to travel, even though he was a really, really strong player. One of the biggest advantages of having these kind of exhibitions, right? Like, so one of the things that EWC can do is that because they have all these qualified players, you can create packages and marketing, etc. You could make videos with the people who have qualified. So you fly out all the people who qualified a week ahead and you record, segments with them. You interview them. You create those little interstitials where they could just be like, goichi, kind of things. And you can really produce an event. What's difficult about open brackets is you get kind of robbed of that situation, right? Sure, when they qualify for top 8, you can probably take them off the side and start recording little things right there and then. But, obviously, I don't think we're quite at that level yet where we're in that position where we are set up for that. And so, that's one of the differences. So when you have an exhibition, you have the ability to promote players, and that makes the sponsors happy. That makes the teams happy, that they're like, oh, check out our cool event. Our Liquid's nephew is in top 8, they can do stuff like that. But when you're an open tournament like a CEO, a Combo Breaker, or an EVO, you're not going to find out who's in the top 8 until literally the end of Saturday, right? For Street Fighter in any case. And so you don't have time to set up all those packages and do all those kind of neat things with it. It is difficult because one seems like a much more polished product, and that's what makes sponsors and teams, etc., happier. I get it why a lot of people want to move in that direction, like the outside guys. So we've had other esports people talk about the FGZ saying you guys need to move towards exhibitions, etc. And from a financial standpoint, it makes sense, right? That it does create a more that's another reason why Red Bull Kumite has the ability to be set up and look slick and have all the packages and stuff for all the players ahead of time like they do. But, like I said, in terms of FGC culture, that's not us, right? Because for us, it is about allowing everybody to have a chance. And that's what makes it beautiful, because the stories of guys like Mickey or, even Blas at Capcom Cup. But, again, Capcom Cup is also kind of a qualification thing. But, what Mickey was able to do at EVO, those kind of stories are essential to the fighting game community culture. The worry that I have about having EVO or any of our entities gain new ownership, that maybe their vision is something different than what the fighting game community has. Again, Rick has assured that, he's trying to assure everybody, and based on the responses, a lot of people are still not reassured yet. By the sounds of it, he's going to try to make sure it tries to stay as true to FGC as possible.